All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience this morning. Technology hiccups. But we're glad you're all here. Yes, please do say hello in the chat. Let us know what organization you're representing today, where you're calling in from. And thanks for sticking with us late into the afternoon. I'm gonna get us going just because I know we're a couple of minutes behind. So just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Julie Cohen. I'm the Engagement and Advancement Director at Pollen Midwest. I use she, her pronouns. If you're sharing along social media, I added my Twitter handle and Pollen's as well, at Velvet Jewels. Don't ask, I was an early Twitter person using fun handles. And then Pollen Midwest as well. And for those who are not familiar with Pollen, we are a media arts organization that fosters empathy, encourages connection across difference, and inspires meaningful action by sharing the stories of individuals who are working to change our collective story for the better. Today, we are here to talk about connection and engagement in a virtual world. And I think for all of us who are no longer hosting in-person events or doing site visits with prospective funders or having coffee or lunch meetings with donors, it can be a little tricky to stay connected and engaged with folks in these virtual times that we are in. So before we dive in, I always like to have kind of a shared language among everyone. So I wanted to pause for a moment to just talk about what we mean when we say connection, especially within the nonprofit sector, or even within your own like personal realm. I would love it if folks would maybe comment in the chat about what connection means to them. So we can kind of see where everybody's coming from. I'll just say for me, yes, Susan, you're so good. Hi, Susan. The first thing I was going to say, relationships. Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about relationships. It's about being with a collection of humans that have shared values, having interactions with donors. Yes, shared values, relationship building, humanity, feeling human with one another, being on the same page. Oh, I love this, Tina, exchanging ideas and feelings. Absolutely, feelings are a huge part of human connection. It's all about those emotions that we're feeling. Trust, yeah, being able to see and hear and value each other. These are all great, thank you. So let's just hold that throughout this afternoon's conversation. And what about engagement? What does that mean? These are connection, engagement, are words we use all the time in the nonprofit sector. Sometimes those words start to lose their meaning. So what does engagement mean to folks? Amy says, recognizing spirit and perspective. This chat is going so fast, I can hardly keep up, y'all. Y'all are amazing. Deepening relationships, communicating history. Paula says not ghosting a development officer. Yes, love that. Yes, those are all great. Thanks for keeping those coming back, hearing back from funders. I'm sensing a trend here, y'all. Advancing narratives and thought processes. Yeah, I hear you, Maren. It's lost some meaning too. You know, I'll just share for me when I think about engagement, I think about the like experience or the feeling someone is having when they're interacting with me as an individual or with Pollen as an organization. I think about how they feel when they walk into a room, an event, how they feel when they walk out. I think about hospitality. I grew up in the South, so like hospitality is just like, you know, just stamped into your head from day one. But making sure that, you know, people feel welcome and included and cared for, like you're anticipating their needs before they even know what they need. And it's all about the energy, you know, when people feel engaged, there's energy, there's momentum, there's a reason for them to be there. Yeah, Emma shared reciprocity and feedback loops. Susan, again, same wavelength, talking about energy here. That's great. Awesome. Thanks everybody for jumping in there. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about like, okay, so why does that matter? Why is connection and engagement important to us in the nonprofit sector? I'll let everybody chime in again. Come see our program. You guys are cracking me up today. You know, at Pollen, human connection is like at the core of everything we do. It's what makes our supporters feel like they are connected to our mission, and they are. I think obviously, you know, if you're doing advocacy work, having a base of supporters who feel like they are connected to your mission means that they're going to be ready to mobilize and take action the minute you ask them to. Connection and engagement are important for fundraising efforts, right? If you don't have a base of supporters, again, who are connected to your mission and really deeply engaged with your work, they're less likely to give. Same goes for, you know, volunteer efforts, recruiting and retaining volunteers for your work. Yes, Lisa says human beings need to be connected to each other, as do our organizations. Absolutely. I think these points about connection and engagement are important for like personal relationships, but also, you know, like Wayne and Candace were talking about this morning, they're important to this ecosystem that we're all trying to create within the nonprofit sector too. So, well, thank you everybody for chiming in there. I am actually going to kick us into breakout rooms right off the bat. I want us to have a few minutes to connect and engage with one another. So we're gonna, Tom's gonna put everyone into small groups here in a second. Once you're in there, just introduce yourselves and then maybe share an experience where you recently felt really connected and engaged. And you know, that can be like a professional, maybe event that you attended or a conversation you've had. All right, we're gonna welcome back from your breakouts, everybody. I had a lovely conversation in my room. I hope everyone else did as well. Hopefully it was a good example of forming some connections in a virtual world and being engaged in the experience. So we're gonna get going again. I wanted to talk specifically today about connection and engagement when it comes to events. And I know that there's a lot that goes into events, right? We have to think about branding and programming and design and outreach and promotion. The list goes on, right? Food, everything. It's a lot of work. But today what I wanted to talk about was like the actual experience that people have, both in live event context, but then specifically like how that translates and why it's important that that translates into virtual events. Because all of those touch points that someone experiences when they go to an event, all of those are an opportunity to create an experience. And I know in experience design, they kind of talk about it as the journey. So I wanted to, let's all take a little walk back in time to the before times and talk a little bit about what events looked like or how they used to look and feel. So you would walk into the room and you would be greeted by friendly faces who would help you find your name tag, and the online event experience when you registered kind of translated into the physical space, like you recognized the branding of the event. You walked into the larger room and you immediately felt this like sense of community of being in a room with people, again, like we were talking about before, who like share your values and are all there for the same reason, to learn from one another. You notice all the details that went into the design of the event, like all the way down to the branded printed event materials that are very intentionally placed at your seat. In this visual that I'm showing, it was from
Are you supposed to be, your slides aren't advancing. I just wanted to call that out.
Oh gosh, yikes.
It's on the before times.
It's still on the before times. That's fabulous. Okay, hang on one second.
You know, you were so beautifully talking about everything. It was like we were looking at something.
Oh gosh, okay. Jamie, can you see Rebecca and Aviva on the screen?
No, it just says before times.
All right. Bear with me, everybody. Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robbie sees it. Okay.
Yeah.
So is everybody seeing maybe in the chat just like a thumbs up, just so I know I'm not alone talking to myself? Okay, cool. Okay, so on this picture, thank you everybody for your patience. As I was saying before, you would walk into the room and you would be greeted by these very welcoming, smiling faces. This is Rebecca and Aviva from our Unraveled Network event. They were the first people you would see when you walked into the room. They would greet you and help you find your name tag. You would see the same branding in the room that you saw online. You would walk into the larger space and you would see the sea of tables with lots of people who are all there for the same reason you are. You would feel this sense of community. And then you would sit down at your table and you would see these intentionally placed printed event materials. In this case, I hope everyone can see, but we did this Like a Boss event called I Contain Multitudes. And the event branding was dinosaurs. And then Robin, who was on the call this afternoon as well, loaned us some of her dinosaurs that we could put at the table, which was just awesome. And you would notice the table decor would, kind of echo the same brand design and just all feel really cohesive. You would meet new people that maybe you otherwise would never have met before. You would build connections grounded in curiosity and discovery of new ideas. There you go, Genevieve sees her rabbi, Michael Adam Blatz. And maybe they shared a meal together and they participated in like creative activities that you made for them that would be shared on social media and spark joy and create long-lasting memories. People would share experiences with one another and share, and they would learn something new from a different perspective. And they would be transformed by artistry and music and words. Does everybody remember that? Oh, I miss that. Yeah, I'm with you, Michelle. I miss event planning too, which is something I never thought I would say. But real talk for a moment here. There is no substitute that matches this level of experience and connection and engagement that we used to have in a virtual world. It is hard, but it is not impossible. So I think the important thing to remember is that we're all craving human interaction, right? In these times of virtual events. And I personally just miss being in a room with people, like a buzz with conversations and everyone hugging and catching up. And it's been really hard to recreate that in virtual events. It's not easy, it's not seamless by any means, but there are ways to infuse human connection and emotion and energy into your virtual events. So we can ask 5-year-old Robin Millard if she is available to talk a little bit about her favorite experiences with Zoom school. Hi, Robbie.
Hi.
So Robbie, are you in Zoom all day long for kindergarten? What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Are you on Zoom all day long?
Yes.
What's your favorite part about being on Zoom all day long?
Getting to spend more time with my teachers.
Do you like one-on-one time? Do you guys do breakout rooms?
Yeah.
Do you like breakout rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you like them?
Because I have time with my friends.
You get time with your friends. Anything else you want to share with everybody?
Thank you, Robbie. You were an excellent co-host. Thank you so much. Yeah, I like breakout rooms because I get a chance to talk to my friends and that makes me happy. It really is that simple. It really is. So I, encourage all of us to channel our inner 5-year-old self when we're designing our events and, you know, give people an opportunity to connect with their friends and meet new people and engage with your organization and create those moments of happiness through music and art and conversation and creative experiences. Sometimes it's good to be, you know, reminded by a 5-year-old why we're doing the work that we do. So thank you, Robbie. I appreciate that. So there is a decision that we have to make with virtual event experiences. I think in this new world of virtual events, you know, engagement really functions on a spectrum. So you can choose to create a visual virtual event experience that is, you know, beautiful and has a high production value, but it's probably going to have limited engagement. Or you can choose to create a really engaging event experience that makes people feel something. So I wanted to share a couple of examples of some virtual events that Pollen helped to produce last year that were kind of like your more polished virtual events that had high production value. Before we play this, before we play this video, I just wanted to share a little bit about this META event that we created. META came to us wanting some help with their annual event. And so we produced this virtual event using OBS, Open Broadcast Studio, with a mix of live video feeds, pre-recorded content, and then had it all live streamed to Facebook and YouTube. So Tom's gonna, hopefully everybody cross your fingers, Tom's gonna play video to give you a little inside look into how this looked. Go ahead, Tom.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to META's 2020 annual meeting. My name is Shantae Hardy, and I'll be your virtual MC this afternoon. I'm honored and humbled by this opportunity to join you as I know firsthand the impact of META's work.
Tom, that's great. Can we go back to the slides? Awesome. Should always just have Tom in charge of everything. So you can kind of tell from that video, just like the level of production that we were talking about with this META event. Open Broadcast Studio gives you a lot of design options, like this overlay that we were able to use while bringing in our panel speakers via Zoom. You know, Zoom doesn't usually look like this, right? So this gave us a little leg up on that visual impact and that design value. But we kind of had to balance that out then with a little less engagement. So really the only way people could engage with the event, aside from watching it, was the Facebook chat in the live stream. And people certainly were on there, and we're excited to be a part of the event, but you know, it's definitely a limited form of engagement. This next example is our 50 over 50 celebration that we produce in partnership with AARP Minnesota. This one was produced in StreamYard, which is another kind of virtual event platform. It still has, yeah, Mei Lee, that's right. Yes, Matt, thank you. Still gave us some, you know, design options, and then we live streamed the event to Facebook and YouTube again. And, you know, the nature of 50 over 50 is very celebratory. The honorees invite their friends and their family and their colleagues. So the Facebook chat was actually really great. Lots of, you can see from this screen share, 113 comments while we were playing the celebration video. And when we announced Mei Lee, her daughter chimed up in the chat, Mei Lee, that's my mom, woot woot. You know, it was just like super heartwarming and really sweet. Oh, and just to go back in chat, Open Broadcast Studio is the first platform that I showed with META, which is up on the screen right now. And then the 50 over 50 event was produced on a platform called StreamYard. Both great. Yes, and Jamie can attest to Open Broadcast Studio requires a lot of work, but it's beautifully done. So And then this last example for 50 over 50, you know, I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to like maintain that human connection. One viewer, while we were playing our documentary video, said, you know, this is such a beautiful and healing video. It brings tears to my eyes. This is the best celebration I've had since the pandemic. And I think it's just a good reminder that human connection is what fuels people. It's what fuels our work in the nonprofit sector. And it should be super high on your list when you are designing and creating events. So, and let me just catch up with myself. So whether or not you're creating a live or a virtual event, I just wanted to reiterate again that those same principles apply. We want to create a space where people can feel real and vulnerable and human. We want them to feel welcomed and included and excited. We want them to feel inspired, especially when you think of how we're all cooped up in our houses and staring at the same wall all day. You know, if your event is something that people can kind of use as an escape to connect with old friends, new friends, to learn something new, just to like break up their day, that's going to be something that they want to come back for time and time again. And just remember that at every touch point within your events, that is an opportunity for you to connect with your audience and to engage them within your organization's mission work. Yes, and as Jamie just mentioned in chat, if y'all have questions, by all means, throw them in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. So I wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about the creation of that space where people can be really real. I think Samukta kind of said it best this morning, like humor is a great way to do that. Being real and having grace for one another, like when your slides no longer advance and you just kind of, you know, you roll with it and you laugh at yourself and you keep going. But I think, you know, as I said before, we're all craving these moments of human connection. And honestly, I think even just like the simple act of, you know, switching over to gallery view and seeing all the faces of the people who are in this room with you, or having an intimate conversation with 2 or 3 people in a breakout room, sometimes that can be exactly what someone needs to like be re-energized and connected to your organization. And just being honest about like the times that we're in, right? We talked this morning about compounding trauma and everything that we've all been going through, you know, creating a space where people can be themselves and they can show up fully and authentically. You know, Christy was in my breakout group earlier, you know, got some shoulder pain, put on a heating pad, cool. Come as yourself. That's what we should all be doing for each other. So, and modeling vulnerability. And I think the best way I can kind of show that is through these next few slides with our Are You Okay event series that Pollen hosted back in March. We started this like 1 week after we closed our office. It was a quick turnaround. So we needed to transition very quickly to virtual events for our community, and it forced us to think really differently about our work and our format. So we did, I think over the course of 7 weeks, 7 events with close to 1,600 people and featuring the voices of 23 different folks from BIPOC communities, femme, non-binary, transgender. We had musicians and healers and faith leaders and small business owners, mental health professionals. We had lots of folks, and apparently I was on my cell phone in this photo, so that's great. Pulling double duty apparently. But just, you know, being able to see that sea of faces, I think brought everyone a sense of comfort and made us all feel like we were less alone. And, you know, artists can really contribute to those kinds of feelings. I think Samukta did a phenomenal job this morning of like setting that tone, modeling that vulnerability, preparing us all for the conversation that we were gonna have this morning. So on the screen, you can see Ayenga Bokamba, who's an amazing visual artist. She did like a virtual tour of her artist studio for us one day. In the bottom lower left corner is Galen Lee, an incredible vocalist and violinist who played a couple of songs for us. So those are just some ways to add that kind of human connection. And then we always talk at Pollen about hyping it up, hype people. Jamie, our executive director, is a great hype person. Jamie Schumacher, who I think might be here or maybe was in a previous session, awesome hype person. That, you know, it's great to have people like in the chat who are engaging with folks and, you know, showing off their kids and their cats and their dogs and their, I don't know, house plants, like whatever you got, right? Sharing quotes from speakers, just making everyone feel super welcome and engaged. Another way to think about engagement is to like send a personal email to some people that are coming to the event and just, you know, sharing with them like, I'm excited that you're coming. It's going to be great to see you, or to welcome someone new, maybe who hasn't interacted with your organization before. That can be just a nice touch to welcome people into your organization. You know, sharing kind of like what to expect and housekeeping notes so that they feel grounded in what they're going to experience. Obviously, you know, showing some love on social media. When we have the time, we like to call out the folks who are coming to Pollen events on Twitter. You know, it gets people excited about joining others. You can even think about, you know, using your event hashtag to start a conversation on Twitter with a prompt that's going to be part of the event, just to get the energy going. Having an MC is a great option for bringing some energy into your events, like Shantara Hardy, who was the MC for the META event we showed earlier. And even small things like sharing super cute Zoom backgrounds that people can use, like the one that's behind me or on this next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, it's a couple slides, never mind, ignore me. But I think we'll get to that in a second. And chat is just like totally where it's at. Sorry, Tom, I know I'm messing you up with slides here. I just wanted to say a couple more words about chat because it really is where so much of the engagement and connection and energy really comes from. You know, you get out of it what you put in. So like having people who are dedicated to just being in chat and talking to folks and encouraging conversation, that's going to bring a lot of energy to your event. Or even taking note of something that Jamie, our executive director, does. You know, you can even do the private chat like in Zoom to say hello personally to someone. It's just a really nice touch. And now I'll share our cute Zoom backgrounds. This was for our Like a Boss When Shit Hits the Fan event from last October. This was a very popular background that people were using. These things can, you know, these are just kind of like nice gestures that you can share with your event attendees. We've even started giving some thought to like mailing some event materials prior to the event, like if you're going to have discussions or if there's maybe workshop materials, if that's kind of what you're doing in your event. Even sending like a little care package, like if you're hosting a 2-day virtual conference, for example, and you want to send like some snacks or something. I know print production and mailing costs can be you know, exorbitant. So doing something digital is always a nice option. And I do see a question about emailing the backgrounds ahead of time. We did do that for Like a Boss. I unfortunately did not do that for navigating through change. But yes, you can share them ahead of time and then people can opt to use which ones they want to. So I'm gonna kind of move us into wrapping up here a bit. So just to kind of wrap up this past part of the conversation, all those photos that I shared earlier from our previous live events, like those are all still opportunities that you can use to create energy in virtual events. So even for example, like if you're using Zoom and you've got the waiting room, or as people are joining the event, like what's that experience? Do they hear music? What's on the screen? Is someone welcoming them in the chat and engaging them in the conversation? You know, thinking about having dedicated people from your team or volunteers who are in the chat, hyping it up. If you're doing breakout sessions, having a host who can maybe be there to like facilitate. make everyone feel welcome, sending a post-event email with additional resources or a contact list of everyone who was in the room so people can get started, you know, continue those conversations or continue to connect with folks. Those are always great things to do. And then just lastly, just thinking about other activities that you can build into the day. Again, artistry, right? Music breaks. We did a comedy set to introduce an event before that was super fun. Although I feel bad for comedians in virtual events because you can't really hear everybody laughing at your jokes, but it was super fun. You know, using chat and Q&A, using those breakout rooms, just think about all those ways that you can engage people. And lastly, I wanted to share just a couple more examples of that kind of human connection and engagement that is possible with virtual events. You know, we used to host these dinners. I shared a photo earlier of people sharing a meal together. We tried to recreate that virtually back in December, where we invited some of our biggest supporters to join us in the evening. We told everybody to like make a plate and come into a Zoom, and we just had like a casual conversation and we ate together, and you know, we shared what we were all reading and watching and listening to in 2020. It was just a really lovely evening to connect with one another. And we had some brief updates about what Pollen was up to, but otherwise it was just a really fun opportunity for people to connect with one another. So, you know, just seeing all these smiling faces was really fun. And then we also sent some cookie cart deliveries to everyone who participated in that dinner so that they could have a little post-dinner dessert. Super appreciated by everyone. We had a couple folks share it out on social media. And we were able to support a really fantastic nonprofit organization that we love, Cookie Cart. Yes, Susan, Cookie Cart is awesome. We love them. And I just kind of wanted to close with, you know, there's so much to think about with virtual event engagement. There's lots of different ways to do it. And we unfortunately, you know, don't have the time to get into all the nitty-gritty details on all of this, but I did want to share that Pollen, in partnership with Events by Lady K, hosted several deep dive sessions earlier or in the summer last year. And all of the videos to those deep dive sessions are on YouTube, and you can watch them at your leisure. And I'm going to ask Tom or Jamie to share those links in the chat. We can also share them out after the event if folks want to dig in a little bit deeper. But again, not to sound like a broken record, but engagement is all the time, right? It doesn't just happen at virtual events. It happens on social media. It happens, thank you. Yeah, Tom put all those in the chat. That's great. You know, you can schedule video chats with your donors or with people who are new to your organization to say hello and make them feel welcome. Also, this thing that we have in our pockets and purses and on our desks, these make phone calls. They're super fun. I've been having some fun, like just reaching out to some of our donors to say hello. That's been really fun. You know, sending snail mail or personal email updates, small tokens of appreciation. There's lots of opportunities there. So I wanted to spend some time with breakouts, but I know we've only got about 10 minutes left. So I'm kind of wondering if folks would rather just maybe chime in with any questions, or if folks want to put some questions in the chat. Otherwise, maybe Tom, we could do like, I don't know, like another 7 minutes maybe in the breakouts for people to kind of talk about how their organizations have been kind of adapting. Or Amber says chat is okay. So yeah, maybe we can stop our screen share and just kind of.
So Julie, one question that was coming up a lot from people is any thoughts on how you see virtual events going forward? And maybe as you talk on that too, people in chat can also share their own opinions on how we see events evolving going forward once the pandemic is magically over. We're all okay. Close your eyes. We're all vaccinated. We're all back in the world. How are events going to look different because of this pandemic experience?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question. And I think I saw somebody in the chat mentioning it earlier that virtual events have been really helpful in terms of accessibility, for a lot of folks traveling to an in-person event and parking and getting, into the building itself and navigating all of that can be hard. It can be really hard and a barrier for people to participate. The time of day of in-person events can be tricky. So I think virtual events are totally here to stay. Like, they're not going away. Even after we're all vaccinated and we're able to be in person with one another, I think there will be an expectation that if you're hosting an in-person event, there is also a virtual event component.
I think it's going to become less engaging though, because it'll be live streamed. So all the in-person people will be like vibing, and then all the virtual people will kind of feel disconnected. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's ways to still do that though. I think, you can still have all that hype in the room with people sharing conversations. And then you've got hype people in the virtual event experience that are in breakout rooms and having conversations with people and making sure that they're, participating in the content and being able to participate in those conversations. I actually had to do that several years ago on Bush Connect, an event that I helped to produce, where we had partners from 3 states participating, and not all of them could come into Minneapolis for planning meetings. So we'd have our in-person planning meetings, and then we'd have other folks dialing in to like WebEx at the time. And we actually found a lot of good ways to keep those folks who were participating virtually engaged. So I definitely think there is a way to do it. It's certainly going to, make some extra work for us as event planners, but I think it's worth it. We need, everyone needs to feel welcome and included
on
in these events.
that idea of inclusion, Julie, we got another question here too about accessibility around captioning. And do you caption all of your events if you upload them? How do you work to make live events more accessible for hearing impaired folks? And I know we have an entire Feed the Spark on this topic that might be useful, but any quick highlights to share? Yeah,
some quick highlights. And I think I saw some other folks talking about it. Yes, for all of our virtual events that we do, especially on Zoom, we pay for a monthly subscription to rev.com. I think it's about $40 a month, if I'm not mistaken, Tom. It allows us 20
per person that you want to have using it in your organization, and you only need really one per account you're going to use.
Yeah. So that's been really helpful. We also, like with Zoom, when we share the recordings, it includes the transcript. So if people want to read through it again, they can do that. It's also available live. We've also, I think what's really important is to just be prepared to provide whatever accessibility services someone could ask for. So even as an example for this event today, we had someone who requested audio description so that they could have someone who was describing to them what they were seeing on screen. And, Tom was able to connect with some resources. We were able to find someone who was available to do that. We also connected with a great organization called WeCo that offers those kinds of services as well. I think, when you do have something very visual on the screen, it's always great to explain what that image is, how I was describing some of the visuals in the beginning, so that if people are visually impaired, they can still kind of get a sense for what's on the screen by your storytelling. I would love to hear what other people think about the future of events.
There's a lot of people agree with what you're saying, and that there will need to be options. Virtual is going to be here to stay. and might be preferable. And, one thing that I was thinking about is how much money we've saved even at Pollen from not hosting. Just this event alone is free. It would not have been possible for this to be free. We would have had to take a huge loss for it to have been free. The tickets would have been $50, $35 a ticket. So there's so many different kinds of accessibility coming in. One thing, Julie, that I was thinking about too is how what is our personal responsibility to participate in engagement versus expecting the organizers of the event to be engaging. So you have a personal responsibility to reach out to people that and you see in the chat and chat with them, send them a private message, follow up with them after the event, get a phone call, send them an email, how great it was to see their face in the beautiful little box. But I would just love to know more from you all, I guess. A question I have for the audience is, how much do you think of it as the organization's job to create an engaging environment versus your individual responsibility to show up and engage? And then any other questions? We still have 2 minutes to share. Susan, you are so great at showing up and engaging. You're like the engagement queen.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. It is a partnership. I agree with that, Jocelyn.
The other thing that I was thinking too is about the idea of sending the treats, because somebody said that they send packages and that they cost about $8 a package. And I was thinking that sounded really affordable. Care packages, to send to your attendees. Julie, how much did our cookie cart boxes cost? Because that's a hard
Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those with delivery were what, 15? Does that sound
25
right?
a person.
Oh, 25.
25 a person with
off.
delivery. It was about 50-50. Half the price was you're paying for the cookies and half the price was for delivery.
Yeah. And I think, we're a pretty small organization. I think at one point I was like, I'll just drop everything off. I'll just drive to all these people's houses. And Jamie was like, no. But maybe if you're a larger organization and you have a pool of volunteers, for example, that could be a really great volunteer engagement opportunity. Yeah, I would have liked to deliver cookies to you as well, Jamie. I would have loved that.
There's great comments coming in here about how to utilize volunteers as part of your engagement strategy, like table hosts, the old time table hosts. It's a great recommendation.
Yeah. Every time we have table hosts at our events, those are all Pollenites. Those are all people that have volunteered with our organization. Oh, yeah, that's true. There's a comment about making sure you're sending what people will actually want. Yeah. Maybe I sent cookies to someone who has a gluten allergy. Yikes. It's quite possible. Just opting for vegan snacks at all opportunities, maybe the best way to go.
Well, I know we're at time, but if people have more questions, Julie, could you put your email?
Oh, yeah, of course. Too? Yeah.
Like I said, Julie is, thank you everyone for being here. Julie, you did such a great job.
Well, thanks, Jamie. And thank you, Tom and Jamie, for stepping up with my technical glitches. I appreciate it. And everyone, thank you so much for coming this afternoon. There are a few more lounges to participate in if you want to network with your peers or share what you've learned, or Ruby from Pollen's going to be hosting the Restoration Lounge. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much for today's really energizing and engaging conversation. Bye, everybody.